Why does she always look like she's running in slow-mo? She always looks wet, but not too wet.
Right. She's the reason I believe in God.
Alina, thank you for being on the program today. A dark day for justice in America.
Yeah.
We've detailed, of course, the absurdities of just bringing this case. You really are rattling around the bottom of the barrel when the Biden DOJ, the SEC, and the former Manhattan District Attorney said, this is a trash case, we're not bringing it.
Right. Yeah, it's called desperation. So they've been looking at this for so many years, and 7, I believe, actually. And they decided not to bring this case. And then the president decided to run for office again. And somehow an indictment came running on down. So, I plan for the next 6 weeks to truly just be spitting the truth and giving people facts that they may not be hearing while he's in court. Obviously, being a type A person, I wish I was a criminal attorney, but I'm not. But the great news is that then I can do this and let everybody know what's actually happening. So this is the ultimate sham of a case. The fact that a president is now being criminally tried, who's, President Biden's leading competitor, is the state of our country. And it's a really sad day. It's a really sad day.
So there are so many different ways to go at this, but let's just start with the kind of overt visual abomination of this case, which is the judge's daughter has Donald Trump in prison as her avatar. In what universe does somebody who makes tens of millions of dollars donating to put Donald Trump in jail, plus has the avatar of Donald Trump in jail? I'm a father. I have little daughters. I would do anything for my little daughters. I just had a daughter that turned 2 this weekend, and so I'd do anything for them. In what universe does anybody expect a fair trial here when you can literally see that this is the fetish to put Trump in prison?
So, the truth is it's worse than that. So in New York, which is different than most states, there's actually a law against judges working on a trial where they or somebody in their 6 degrees of separation, and his daughter being an immediate, obviously, relation, has any interest financially. His daughter, and what we do know is his daughter does work with this company that does the branding, the advertising for people like Chuck Schumer. And when he profits, she profits through the advertising and those types of things. And it's really disturbing to me because if the case is lost, it actually financially disincentivizes the judge for his daughter. So you're not supposed to sit on a bench when you have any sort of motivation that's not completely unbiased. You should have no motivation other than to apply laws and facts and hold people accountable that need to be, and release people who have been wrongfully persecuted and prosecuted. And we do know that there's affiliations there with his daughter. We've filed motions to recuse. The team has filed motions to recuse. They have failed to recuse. He has failed to recuse himself. There's frankly not a judge that I've sat in front of who doesn't have a disdain for President Trump, who has recused. And it's a shame because the recusal process is flawed in itself. The judge himself decides whether he can or cannot sit for the trial and be impartial. Tell me one person, for instance, me, who wouldn't love to just go do a trial against Chuck Schumer. I would love to, but that doesn't mean that I should. Okay. And that's where this is. And unfortunately, this trial is proceeding today in front of this judge, Judge Merchan, who, by the way, also put Alan Weisselberg in jail not once, but twice, the CFO of the Trump Organization, who's also Steve Bannon's judge. We are seeing the most corruption in the state of New York, across the country, frankly, with these DAs and AGs. And then it permeates in the court system, which is supposed to be where you get to go in and put your case on. And I'm concerned. I really am. I know what New York juries are like. I know that you're in a blue state. They do that on purpose. That's why we're in Georgia. That's why we're in Washington. That's why we're in these states. And I don't know, Benny, I'm concerned, and I've always say this, but I've lost faith in our judicial system, to be honest.
Yeah, we sort of began the show by talking about show trials in Soviet Russia. USSA is what Jack Posobiec now calls our current country and state
Yeah.
of our judicial system, and how the show trials, I mean, the common line of the show trial was, show me the man, I'll show you the crime. It didn't matter because the judges and the evidence and the jury pool was all rigged, and you could effectively put, of course, Joseph Stalin's political enemies in jail, and he did that in mass. But then also, as soon as the political enemies were all run out, you go to the common citizen, the factory owner, the person who looked at Stalin the wrong way, the person who Stalin's never met, but just like tries to like, you got to keep power is fear, right? So you have to keep people fearful. And then that creates the Red Scare, which is pretty famous for putting millions of Russians in gulags. And so it does seem like the first step down that path here.
100%. It goes much deeper than that too. Creating fear among Americans, creating fear of war, creating fear of going to church, religious entities, and to feel that you have no faith, that fear is completely taking over your life. This is part of the brainwashing that they do, and you're seeing it. It's much like cult mentality, you know. And what we're seeing here is Russia type banana republic Cuba stuff. This is not American. You know, he always says things, and I know he says it and it gets played 100 times, but he really is standing in the way for us. And this is a demise like I've never imagined. I mean, a president used to be, you know, praised after whether you agreed with him or not. I remember Obama, you know, not my party, but I never had this disdain towards these presidents the way people have this anger. And I think that the truth is they know that he'll clean up and he'll get to the bottom of the truth. And they're worried that come November, if he's not put in jail, if he's not put away and taken care of in some way, then they are going to have to be held accountable. And there will be a deep dive. And we're going to look at, why did the January 6th committee delete evidence? We're going to look at things like that. And that frightens them because they've got a lot to hide.
Yeah, so this is what the rally in Pennsylvania looked like this past weekend. It's the biggest Trump rally we've seen in a very long time, and really just people as far as the eye can see. The camera angles can't cover it and show it. I mean, you're talking about a massive field in Pennsylvania, with like MAGA just at Trump's back, and it does seem like the president's message is winning. It does seem like Donald Trump's support of base is growing. He's up in all 7 swing states, and he's leading in demographics that nobody, you know, that Democrats have never lost to Republicans. And so, like, young people, right, Latino support and so on. Yeah. And so it does beg the question, like, what won't they do to stop this man? Will, you know, if these cases don't work, do you think there's something worse waiting for us?
Listen, I've heard people say he has to be careful that he doesn't get killed, you know. I mean, and I agree with that.
Is that a concern, like inside the Trump team?
I mean, look, I'm not going to breach his security or put him in jeopardy, but I think that we'd be naive not to think that that's a consideration. I get death threats. I mean, and I'm a spokeswoman, but I'm a loud one, and that upsets them. So, you know, the reality of the situation is we're in a very troubling time as a country. And for them, and I think that's why, by the way, the growth, that's why you see these Pennsylvania rallies, people coming out on a Saturday night, and instead of going to dinner with their friends, they would rather go to a rally and feel confident that this country is not going to completely fall apart for their children and their grandchildren. The growth I've seen personally, you know, people are always like, do people come up to you and I have never once had somebody come up to me. Never once in person. Now, there's of course trolls, but never once have I had somebody not come up to me and give me nothing but support. Thank me for fighting for the country with the president. Thank me for what I'm doing. The world is changing. Look at what happened in Georgia and that Chick-fil-A. You know, that woman said it all. They want us to hate you, but we don't. We love you, President Trump. And that's the truth. And that's why they're going after him so hard. Look, they hit him financially, Benny. They hit him with the women. They're trying to get the female vote with the Bergdorf case. They hit him with he's a fraud in his business with the Attorney General Letitia James case. Look what happened there. Then we go into the appellate division and they say, whoa, 475 plus interest plus what? Nah. Here's what you're going to pay, and we're going to actually let you have some due process, which was such a great win for our team. And then we inch closer. Now they're trying to pull criminal stuff from 7. He wasn't even there. Let's just start with basics. He was in the White House, Benny. when this was booked in the accounting records by some accountant in the Trump organization. Okay? There's something called, he wasn't even in the state, let alone in control of his company. He wasn't in control of the company at the time. But here we are on a criminal trial where they elevate a misdemeanor to a felony. This is what we're dealing with.
Donald Trump has said on Truth Social he'd be happy to run for president from prison, and he thinks it'd make him Nelson Mandela.
Yeah.
And I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
He's told me that. Yeah, he's told me that. He said it's like Nelson Mandela. You know, he's not wrong. The one time he said it to me actually was I was in court, and I remember him saying the same thing. And you know, he says that, and he means it. I think he is the victim of political prosecution, and selective prosecution is what we call it legally. And you know, that's when you target somebody because you don't like what they stand for, or you target them because they're your opponent in some regard or a threat to you. And that is what is happening. How can you say it's not? The fact that this particular case was not brought, Benny, and then he decides to run and they bring it. There's a book of a prosecutor who worked in a firm that works with the Clintons and the DNC. There is a book by that prosecutor who was left his law firm to go work for the DA just to bring this case. And when they wouldn't bring the case, when Cy Vance would not bring this case against President Trump, he quit in outrage, wrote a book, and said how angry he was because he wanted them to bring this case, but Michael Cohen was discredited. So then what happens? Bragg comes in, President Trump says, I'm running for office, and they bring the case and they indict and rush a trial for this month before November. I've had cases sitting in New York for 3 years that have not had motions heard. 3 years.
Wow.
No motions heard. But these cases somehow get fast tracked. It's crazy.
What's your thought? What's your over under on the jury pool here? Because these juries are absolutely ratchet. And
Ratchet.
yeah, and I just don't have a lot of hope. And the reason why, so no legal expert here, but we've just been covering OJ's death, and there were all these jurors in OJ's death that have now come forward. They're very old, and they're saying, no, we knew he killed everyone.
But they
we
like
just
Al
didn't.
Sharpton or whoever it was.
Right,
I saw that
that's
interview.
right. I mean, they're now admitting it. No,
Yeah.
we just made sure he wouldn't go to jail because racism or something. Right? Like, because we just didn't care. We wanted to protect him and destroy this person's life, right? Protect this person and destroy this person's life. And if you're going to go to trial in New York, I mean, what are the chances of that with Trump?
You know what happened to me. So, you know, the truth is these jurors are human beings. They have biases. And what was troubling in this case is that while we're doing jury selection starting today, one of the things that the judge here, Judge Mershon, would not allow us to ask was whether or not they voted for a Republican or a Democrat, whether or not they voted for President Trump, whether or not they work for the Biden administration. You know, there's people that when I was doing the jury selection in the Carroll case, we're working currently for the Biden campaign. And I didn't want those people sitting on a jury for President Trump. And but you have the right to ask those questions. Now, this judge has eliminated many of those questions. You're not allowed to ask who they voted for. You can ask what news they watch. But I watch CNN and I watch Fox because I like to know what my opposition's saying. So it doesn't tell you what the status is. Now, when you're sitting with a president and a current nominee for the GOP, and you can't ask how you vote, you're shot in the foot right there. And you're in New York, which is a predominantly blue state. So, you know, that hindrance in itself is problematic just from the get-go.
I just want to really pin, I know we're short of time, but I really want to pin this down. You're telling me that the judge would allow somebody who's actively working for Joe Biden's presidential campaign to be on this jury pool?
Well, that happened to me. I mean, of course. Of course. I had arguments with the judge about it and saying, you know, I wanted this person out and I got them off the jury pool, but it was tough. The judge said, well, if you, I will never forget it. You know, if you'd have it your way, you'd have all Republicans. I said, well, I'm his lawyer, of course. You know, I mean, that's my job as a lawyer is to make sure that I get the absolute best jury pool I'm going to get. And by the way, don't think that the DA team isn't going to do the exact same thing. They're going to try and get the best jury pool they can. And in New York, for them, it's going to be much easier.
Yes. Final question for you. Donald Trump goes ahead and wins in 2024, right? Too big to rig. Donald Trump wins. He would obviously lean pretty heavily upon you for legal advice and restructuring advice and so forth. What would you advise Donald Trump, given everything that he's gone through legally? You, of course, have been, in the arena, so to speak, in all of these battles. What would you advise to ensure that this never happens again?
I'm not a vindictive person. I'm a person of faith. So for me, I believe that I think that we have to figure out a system where these elected officials are not using their positions to get reelected. And there needs to be, I think, stronger repercussions for those that are found to do so. I think there needs to be a real deep dive into these DAs and prosecutions and all the people. I would stop the special prosecutors from coming over from some of these law firms, coming over from Democrat-based law firms to investigate and target people and then go back. And I'm saying that for both sides of the coin. I think it's un-American. I think we need to do things the right way. And until one side does it, we're never going to do it. And one has to back down. And that might be the Republican Party. But I can tell you that doesn't mean we're weak. That means we're strong. We have to instill the Constitution. That's it. It has to be about the Constitution, not who you are, not who you vote for, the Constitution and you being an American citizen. And if you are an American citizen, if you're here legally, if you're here the right way, and you're here with a visa and you do all the things you're supposed to do, then you are afforded those principal rights. Okay. That's what makes us not Cuba. So I would tell him, number one, I would fire the top of the DOJ. I would clean house up there. That would be the first thing I would do. I would stop all the unnecessary search, the FISA looking at that, for instance. I think that's a disgrace. I think that we have to look at why we're looking at people. You have a right to privacy. That's important to me. There's so many things, Benny, I don't even know where to start. But I would tell you that you have to clean house. We have to clean house. And we have to hold people accountable because the next administration needs to hold us accountable. And it needs to go on and on and on. That's how we have in America. It really is.
It's pretty remarkable. You just mentioned the DOJ. And lo and behold, on Friday news dump, the DOJ says, oh yeah, Fani Willis has potentially committed horrible crimes by misuse of federal dollars. How bad is it when Joe Biden's DOJ says this about Fani Willis?
Well, be careful with that, right? Because I'm always thinking, why are they doing it? And are they doing it for show? So they could say we're investigating Hunter Biden, but Hunter Biden's still walking free. Meanwhile, Trump's in a criminal case right now. So sometimes they do it to appear to be impartial when they're not. It's all an appearance. It's advertising season for the Biden DOJ right now. So they've got to start to rein in Chris Wray. They've got to start to make themselves look like they are impartial. But don't be fooled by it. The truth of the matter is, I don't care about your investigations. I don't care about you calling people to Congress. I want to see people get held accountable. And until we see that, it's just noise to me, to be honest. It's just noise. And I think that's the problem. People are getting frustrated. People are saying, when is there going to be action? All these shows, all the televised BS. Let's see people be held accountable. Why has Hunter Biden not been put on trial?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've asked that question in Trump's inner circle, and the response we got back is Trump's too good of a person. It's amazing. I actually asked this question at dinner, and I'm not going to name with who, but the response was, why didn't you put Hillary Clinton in jail? I mean, she really is a criminal. I mean, truly like a criminal, and there was no effort. There was no effort to go after. Yeah, that's right. There was no effort to go after Hillary Clinton, and the response I got was because Donald Trump thought it'd be bad for the country. And he thought
he's not wrong. He's not wrong. Yeah. Look at what's happening right now. It's no good. It's divisive. It's hurting everybody.
Yes. Yeah. Alina, Godspeed. Everybody needs to follow Alina Habba and ensure that her voice can be as strong and as loud as possible, especially right now. 202,000 people can't be wrong. Head on over and follow Alina, ladies and gentlemen. Godspeed out there.
Thanks,
You're fighting the good fight.
Thanks.